my fiancé said. My friends hate you, they think you're too boring to marry. So I cancelled the wedding. Hi, I'm Nathan, 30, and 2 months before my wedding, my fiancé told me she needed a break, to date a bad boy. So I said, okay, and quietly cancelled the entire wedding behind her back. 2 days before what she thought was still our big day, she called in a panic. That's when I told her, the wedding was off, and this time, I was the one with edge. I proposed to Emily after 3 solid years of dating. She said yes, cried a little, and then handed me the entire wedding planning process like it was a school project she forgot to do. Can you just handle it? Wedding planning stresses me out. You're better at logistics anyway. She wasn't wrong. I teach high school math, live on a spreadsheet, and max out my 401k. I drive a Toyota Camry and own a modest 3-bedroom house with a mortgage that doesn't make me cry. Logistics are my thing. Emily, meanwhile, worked as a dental hygienist. Kind, responsible, made decent money. We split things evenly. Nothing wild, nothing messy. We were boring, in the good way. Or so I thought. Then she got a new job at a swanky dental clinic downtown. I'm talking luxury office vibes, espresso machines, and co-workers who wore embroidered designer scrubs and drove Audis on dental salaries. Their names were Sophia, Megan, and Brianna, and they were chaos in human form. Group photos with captions like, "Boss babes who break hearts," brunch mimosas every Sunday, and endless stories about dating emotionally unavailable gym bros with names like Kyle and Tanner. They loved drama like it was cardio. And suddenly, Emily was listening to them. A lot. Sophia said we should upgrade our venue, $18,000 minimum. Megan joked I should surprise her with a $30,000 gift. Brianna asked Emily why she was marrying a math guy with no edge. The way Emily started parroting their nonsense was like watching a quiet sitcom turn into a soap opera. One night, I was making dinner, pasta, nothing fancy, and Emily was glued to her phone. "Can you put your phone down?" She sighed. "I'm texting Brianna." "God, you're so uptight." And then it happened. "My friends hate you," she said, eyes not even meeting mine. "They say you're too nice. Too boring. Too predictable." I stared at her. "Okay, and what do you think?" She hesitated. Then, like it had been rehearsed, "I think I need a break." "A break?" "Yeah. Just for a few weeks. I need to explore, just to be sure." "Explore what, exactly?" She swallowed. "I want to date a bad boy. Just to see what it's like." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at her and nodded. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay? Sure. Go ahead. Date your bad boy. And you were right, I'm too nice. I should work on that." "What does that mean?" "You'll see." And just like that, she left. Bags packed. Went to stay with Sophia. The next morning, I picked up the phone and started canceling everything. Let's begin. The first call I made was to the venue. "Hi, this is Nathan Torres. I'm calling to cancel my wedding booking for June 14th. The woman on the line was polite, almost apologetic. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Torres. Per our policy, since you're more than 60 days out, you'll forfeit the $3,000 deposit, but there's no further charge." "Understood. Please cancel." Click. That was $3,000 of my own money gone. But compared to marrying someone who wanted a temporary boyfriend trial run, worth it. Next up, the caterer. $4,500 for 120 guests. We'd split the $1,500 deposit, $750 each. "You'll lose the deposit, but nothing else is owed," they told me. Done. Cancelled. Another $750 of mine gone. Emily's half? That was on her. I wasn't her bookkeeper anymore. I called her parents next. I owed them that much. They'd paid for the photographer, a $3,000 deposit. "Hi, Richard, it's Nathan." "Nathan! How's the planning?" Emily asked for a break. "To date someone else. I'm canceling the wedding." Long silence. "She what?" "She wants to explore other options." A groan. "Jesus. All right. I'll handle the photographer. Don't worry about the deposit." "You sure?" "Nathan, you're a good man. Emily's being an idiot. Don't pay us back." That was $0 of mine lost. And a surprising new fan in Richard. "DJ? Already paid in full, $1, 200 mine. No refund that close to the date. Whatever. Let him spin Taylor Swift to an empty room for all I cared. The florist was next. Flowers, $2,000 total. We'd paid $800 to start, $400 each. Can I cancel my half of the deposit? I asked. If you can prove you paid half, sure. Sent them a Venmo screenshot, $400 with flowers deposit in the note. 5 days later? Refund received. My half anyway. Hers stayed with the florist. If she didn't show up on the wedding day, which she wouldn't, it'd be forfeited. And finally, the honeymoon. Italy. 10 days. $6,000. Non-refundable through the travel agency, unless you were smart, like me, and bought travel insurance for $420. Wedding cancelled. I told the agent. Here's the venue's confirmation and the policy number. Okay, they said. You'll receive a refund minus the $500 deductible. Expect $5,500 back. And I did. 2 weeks later. Sweetest check I've ever deposited. I sat down and tallied the damage. Lost $3,000, venue, $750, caterer, $1,200, DJ, $420, insurance, $500, deductible. Gained, $400, flowers refund, $5,500, honeymoon payout. Net cost to walk away clean, $370. Cost of marrying someone who needs a motorcycle guy to find clarity. Everything. Emily texted me a week later. Hey. How are you? Fine. I miss you. Okay. I'm seeing someone. His name is Dante. He has a motorcycle. Perfect. I didn't tell her I'd canceled the wedding. She didn't ask? Let her enjoy the ride. Dante. His name was Dante. He had a tribal tattoo sleeve, a chain wallet, and a motorcycle he revved like it owed him money. His Instagram bio said, Anti-system, pro-chaos. And he posted moody selfies with captions like, You weren't born to pay bills and die. I didn't have to do background checks to know the type. I taught high school. I'd seen that look in detention on at least 5 juniors. Emily? She was thriving. Her stories were full of grainy bar selfies, motorcycle rides down backroads, and deep thoughts, like, Sometimes you need to break everything to find yourself. She posted a picture of Dante sketching on a bar napkin, tagged #ArtIsLife. And another one of them kissing under fluorescent gas station lights. Classy. I stayed silent. Let her play out her little rebellion arc. Meanwhile, I was at home fixing the fence, repainting the guest room, alphabetizing spices. You know, dangerous stuff. At night, I played video games, had beers with friends, even started a puzzle. And for the first time in months, no drama. Just peace. Then week 5 hit. I woke up to a new post from Emily. Nice guys finish last. I'm done coming in second. It got 22 likes and 2 comments from Sophia and Megan, hearts and preach. Week 6, the post was gone. She texted me 3 days later. I think I'm ready to come home. I stared at the message like it was a student trying to turn in homework from 2 semesters ago. All I replied was, Okay. The next day, she walked back in like she'd just run an errand. Set down her bag. Looked around. Smiled. So Dante and I broke up. I nodded. Tough break. He was intense. Too chaotic. Missed my birthday. Smoked in the house. Wrote poetry on the mirror in soap. Sounds like a real visionary. She didn't get the sarcasm. I realized what I have with you is special. You're dependable, stable, kind. Didn't you say I was boring? You're not boring. You're mature. Ah. Mature. Right. She kissed my cheek. I knew I could count on you. I didn't say anything. I just made dinner. She scrolled Instagram during it. 2 days before the wedding, she asked if I'd finalized the headcount for the venue. I'll handle it, I said. Then I went back to my classroom, taught derivatives, and waited. My phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Then a call. Emily. I stepped into the hallway. Nathan, what the hell? I just called the venue. They said we canceled. I took a breath. Oh yeah, I said. I did that 2 months ago. Silence. What? I canceled it the day after you asked for a break. Venue, caterer, honeymoon. All of it. You what? You said I was too nice. I figured I'd start being bad. You're insane! No. I'm decisive. Big difference. And that was the moment everything flipped. She realized. The nice guy was gone. And her bad boy just gave her the one thing he never had before. A consequence. She didn't hang up. She sputtered. Like her voice couldn't decide whether to scream or sob. You can't just cancel our wedding without telling me! I shrugged, standing alone in the hallway outside my classroom. You wanted to date someone else. I assumed we were done. I never said we were done. I said I needed space. And I gave it to you. I also gave back the venue, the caterer, the flowers, the DJ, the honeymoon. You're welcome. This isn't funny, Nathan. Good thing I'm not laughing. Her voice went quiet. That kind of quiet where you can hear the engine start for a full meltdown. So the honeymoon, you cancelled that too? Of course. Got $5,500 back, thanks to the insurance. Deductible was $500, but considering I was almost married to someone who thought trying Dante was a valid relationship phase, totally worth it. I can't believe you. Yeah, I've gotten that a lot recently. Usually followed by something about how I'm too boring. She hung up. Then called back 5 minutes later. Crying. Nathan, please. We can fix this. Fix what? The wedding. We can rebook everything. You can try. I'm not paying for it. But you took the deposits. I forfeited the deposits. They're gone. Along with my enthusiasm for marrying someone who test drove a motorcycle rebel 2 months before the big day. I don't have the money to fix it. Maybe Dante can help. He seems like a guy with resources. I'm not with Dante anymore. Then I guess you're just single. We're not broken up. Emily. You asked for a break to date another man? I cancelled our wedding. We are absolutely broken up. She went silent again. Then, in a quieter voice. You never said that. I didn't think I needed to. You walked out. I shut the door. But I came back. And you assumed everything would be waiting like a sitcom husband who forgives everything after one laugh track. I hate you. Finally, something we agree on. She hung up again. Then the group chat text started rolling in. Sophia. You're an A****. Megan. Emily is devastated. Brianna. You're petty and vindictive. I replied once. To be fair, I was too nice. But you all said that was a problem. I'm just trying something new. Emily's parents called later that night. Her dad sounded calm. Nathan, we heard what happened. Yeah. Good for you. Wait, really? Emily made a huge mistake. We're sorry about the photographer deposit. Don't worry about it. Thank you. For what it's worth, we always liked you. We think our daughter was an idiot. Click. Emily moved out 3 days later. She posted on Instagram. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the worst. Her friends commented. You deserve better, queen. His loss. Karma is coming. I posted a photo of my freshly painted guest room. Caption. Feels good to finish what you start. My friends? Looking good. Nice color choice. Proud of you, man. Emily texted me a week later. I want my half of the caterer deposit back. I replied. Cool. I want my half of the couch. What? Couch cost $1,200. We split it. You owe me $600. So, net, you owe me $150. This is ridiculous. So is asking for your money back after bailing on your fiancée to go full leather jacket trial run with a dude named Dante. We were on a break. Ross Geller defense. Classic. She never brought up the money again. 2 months after the would-be wedding, a mutual friend told me Emily and Sophia had a falling out. Apparently Sophia, who once called me a human ambien, had also encouraged Emily to follow her heart right into Dante's questionable embrace, then blamed Emily when it all exploded. She said I was unstable. Emily had supposedly told the friend. After she pushed me to do it. I feel like I got set up. You think? 3 months after that, I heard Emily was dating again. This time? An accountant. No tattoos. No motorcycle. Just a guy with glasses and a hybrid who probably played Sudoku on his lunch break. Apparently, she'd learned her lesson. Then, for months after she stormed out of my house like she was in the final scene of a Netflix drama, she texted me again. Emily. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen. No preamble. No. Hi. Just 2 words, 4 months late, wrapped in digital guilt. I didn't reply. Emily. For everything. For listening to my friends. For asking for a break. For taking you for granted. Still no reply. Emily. Do you think we could try again? I typed slowly. No. She responded in less than 10 seconds. Emily. Why not? I answered. Because you asked for a break 2 months before our wedding so you could date a guy named Dante with a motorcycle. That's not something I can come back from. Emily. People make mistakes. They do. And people also experience consequences. This is yours. She paused. Or maybe just stared at the screen trying to find a way to untangle a decision that had blown up her whole life like a gender reveal party gone nuclear. Emily. You're really not going to forgive me? I already did. Emily. Then why not give me another chance? Because forgiving you doesn't mean forgetting how it felt when you chose excitement over me. Emily. I miss you. I don't miss you. Long pause. Emily. That's harsh. No, Emily. That's honest. You said I was too nice, so I changed. This is the bad boy version. Emily. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every word. You just didn't think there'd be consequences. She never responded. A few months passed. And then I met someone new. Her name was Rachel. I met her in the most unbad boy way possible, at the public library. She was standing in the nonfiction aisle, holding a worn paperback copy of Crime and Punishment like it was a loaf of artisan bread. I made some dumb joke about Dostoevsky being the original sad boy. She laughed. Like really laughed. Not a fake, polite one. The kind that reaches the eyes. She was 29, a librarian, made $47,000 a year, drove a 12-year-old Honda Civic, and thought my Camry was fancy. No embroidered scrubs. No influencer friends. No gas station kiss photos. Just a woman who thought stability was sexy and found budgeting hot. On our first date, we went out for Korean barbecue. She split the check. Didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Didn't say, "You're supposed to pay." Just smiled and said, "You got the appetizers. Let me handle the meat." I swear I almost proposed on the spot. We went on a second date. Then a third. On that third one, I told her the whole Emily story. All of it. The wedding. The break. The motorcycle bad boy saga. Rachel blinked. Then tilted her head. So, your fiancé asked for a break to date a guy named Dante, and instead of arguing or begging, you just canceled the entire wedding without telling her? Yup. She grinned. That's the most passive-aggressive thing I've ever heard. I prefer strategically assertive. She laughed. Again. Full volume. No filter. Did you ever regret it? She asked. Not once. Good. She sounds awful. Her friends sound worse. I shrugged. They were the ones who convinced her I was boring. Rachel gave me a look, somewhere between amused and genuinely baffled. Are you? Am I what? Boring. I'm a math teacher who drives a Camry, maxes out his 401k, and watches reruns of Parks and Rec while folding laundry. She nodded thoughtfully. That's not boring. That's responsible. There's a difference. Right then I realized, I didn't need to be edgy. I didn't need a tattoo or a motorcycle or a tragic poetry phase. I just needed someone who valued consistency over chaos. Someone who didn't confuse love with adrenaline. We've been together 6 months now. No drama. No mystery. No Dante. Just inner, deep conversations, and the occasional debate about whether Vonnegut counts as real literature. Rachel says no. I say absolutely yes. She's wrong. But I love arguing about it. A few weeks ago, Emily texted me again. Because of course she did. Emily. I heard you're engaged. I wasn't. Rachel and I weren't even talking rings. We were still arguing about whether Slaughterhouse-Five should be on the same shelf as Great Expectations. But I didn't correct her. Me. Yeah. Emily. Congratulations. Me. Thanks. Emily. I hope she appreciates you. Me. She does. Emily. I'm happy for you. Me. Thanks. Good luck with everything. That was it. Final exchange. Short, civil, quietly devastating, for her. She thought she was texting the same man who once made her pasta while she rolled her eyes at him over the phone. But that guy was long gone. The one she called boring? He'd learned how to walk away without looking back. Learned that love without respect is just a performance, and he wasn't auditioning anymore. Now, when people ask me what happened with my ex, I don't give them the soap opera version. I say, she asked for a break to date a bad boy. Pause. So I gave her a break. And I became the kind of man who doesn't need permission to protect his peace. Because here's the thing, I wasn't always nice because it was who I was. I was nice because I thought it was the requirement. Be easy. Be predictable. Be small. But Emily taught me something, unintentionally. She taught me that being the nice guy doesn't mean being the doormat. That being responsible doesn't mean being spineless. That setting boundaries is only boring to people who benefit from you not having any. So yeah, now I'm still nice. But I'm also the kind of nice that cancels a wedding when someone tries to play games. The kind that gets his flower deposit refunded by screenshotting a Venmo transaction. The kind that maxes out his 401k, alphabetizes his spice rack, and doesn't care if someone with an infinity tattoo and vape habit calls him boring. And Rachel? Rachel doesn't want a bad boy. She wants a man who comes home on time, listens, and keeps his promises. We slow danced in her kitchen last week to an old Norah Jones song. I'm pretty sure it was the first time I'd ever been completely happy doing absolutely nothing. No chase. No chaos. No pretending to be something louder just to be heard. Just peace. And peace, it turns out, is loud in its own way. It was a Sunday morning, clear sky, coffee on the stove, Rachel curled up on my couch with a book and my hoodie draped over her shoulders, when it really hit me. I wasn't recovering anymore. I was recovered. The ghost of Emily, of wedding plans and red flags dressed as romance, didn't haunt the corners of my mind anymore. There was no mental PowerPoint playing of what I could have said, should have done, or maybe if'd. It was over. The chapter was done. And for the first time, I wasn't reading the margins. I'd cleaned out the storage bin labeled wedding stuff weeks ago. Didn't even feel anything. Just folded up the monogrammed napkins, donated the centerpieces, tossed the printed menus into recycling. One copy of the original seating chart went in the shredder. The sound it made? Glorious. That same afternoon, I pulled down a dusty corkboard I'd kept in the back of my closet. It had been there since high school, full of old photos, quotes, stupid scribbles about dream weddings and houses with white fences. I pinned one last thing to it, a printout of a Venmo transaction. Nathan Torres, Emily Zhao, $400. Memo. Flowers. I stared at it, smiled, and then took the whole board down and threw it away. I didn't need to keep trophies anymore. I didn't need to prove I'd been wronged. I was too busy building something right. Rachel and I weren't rushing into anything. No wedding countdowns. No Pinterest boards. Just weekends at the farmer's market. Late-night chess matches we both sucked at. Heated debates about whether pancakes are just lazy waffles. They are, and I'm willing to die on that hill. We were simple. We were quiet. We were safe. And that used to sound like a curse. But now, safe meant knowing I wouldn't wake up to a relationship plot twist. It meant texts that said, home in 10, instead of, we need to talk. It meant knowing where I stood without having to audition for it every single day. One night, Rachel and I sat on the porch watching the rain. No music. No phones. Just the soft patter on the roof and the scent of wet concrete. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You know, you're the least boring person I've ever met." I turned to her, eyebrow raised. "I alphabetized my freezer." She smiled. "Exactly." And that's when I realized, maybe the whole point wasn't to prove I wasn't boring. Maybe the point was to find someone who saw the magic in the ordinary. Someone who didn't need me to be loud to feel heard. 3 weeks ago, Emily texted me one last time. No lead-in. No apology. Just, "Emily, do you ever think about us?" I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then I typed, "Me. Only when I need a reminder of what I'll never settle for again." No response. She didn't reply. Didn't like any of my posts. Didn't reach out again. And that silence? That was the real closure. Because sometimes the final chapter doesn't end with a slammed door or a dramatic monologue, it ends with a quiet decision to just not answer anymore. Rachel met my parents last month. It was a casual dinner, grilled chicken, potato salad, nothing fancy, but my mom brought out the good wine, which in our house meant the bottle without a twist-off cap. My dad gave Rachel his usual, "I'm watching you," stare until she started talking about her favorite sci-fi author. 20 minutes later, they were deep into a debate about the left hand of darkness and whether aliens count as literary metaphors. He looked at me after she left the room to wash her hands and said, "She's got a good head on her shoulders. And she doesn't seem like the kind to run off on a motorcycle." "No," I said, smiling. "She's more the type to return library books early." My mom gave me a knowing glance. "You're happier now." "I am." And I was. I didn't need the validation. Didn't need anyone to say I'd dodged a bullet. I knew. A few days later, I bumped into a mutual friend of Emily's at the grocery store. She looked at me like I was a ghost she wasn't expecting to see in the frozen pizza aisle. "I heard about the wedding," she said cautiously. "Yeah. Didn't happen. She's different now." "That happens. She says she still loves you." I nodded. "But does she love the version of me that cancelled everything and walked away? Or the one who used to say yes even when he should have said hell no?" She didn't answer. Just offered a polite smile, then looked down at the bag of arugula in her hands like it had the answers. I walked away with my pizza, went home, and made dinner for Rachel. No drama. No speech. Just a quiet night with the kind of woman who thinks my jokes are funny and my spreadsheets are sexy. Turns out, boring isn't a flaw. It's a foundation. And I'd finally started building something real on top of it. Last weekend, Rachel and I went hiking, nothing wild, just a moderate trail with a lake view at the top. We packed sandwiches, wore sensible shoes, and argued about whether trail mix counts as a meal. Her, yes. Me, it's just chaos in a Ziploc bag. Halfway up the trail, we passed a couple arguing. Loudly. He was wearing a sleeveless hoodie and vaping while trying to explain why she was too controlling, and she was throwing a protein bar at him mid-rant. Rachel leaned in and whispered, "I give them 2 weeks." I grinned. "You're being harsh." She smirked. "I'm being honest. Isn't that what bad boys do?" We laughed all the way up the hill. At the summit, we sat on a bench overlooking the lake. She pulled out a book, I pulled out my phone, only to find a new DM request. From Emily. I didn't open it. Didn't even feel curious. I just hit delete request and tucked my phone back in my pocket. Rachel glanced over. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," I said. And meant it. Because here's the thing they never tell you about walking away from chaos. Eventually, the silence stops feeling weird. It starts feeling earned. And the peace? That starts to feel like a reward. That night, back home, Rachel fell asleep on my chest while we watched The Martian. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought it. This is what love feels like when it doesn't ask you to shrink. This is what trust feels like when it doesn't come with conditions. And this is what a life looks like when you stop chasing people who never planned to stay. Earlier this week, I found the wedding box. I'd shoved it to the back of the closet months ago, under old yearbooks, a busted space heater, and that one shoebox full of tangled chargers I'll definitely never untangle. But there it was. The box. Plain gray, labeled in black Sharpie. Wedding Nathan and Emily. I opened it. Inside were all the leftovers of a life that never happened, our SVP cards, our engagement photo, taken at sunset in a field that smelled like bug spray and bad decisions, a sample place setting with a tiny tent card that said Mrs. João Torres, and a handwritten list titled, "Our Song Ideas," in Emily's handwriting. First song on the list? Lover by Taylor Swift. I laughed out loud. Not bitterly. Not sadly. Just the kind of laugh you make when you've healed so much. The past feels like watching someone else's old home movie. I packed it all back up. Taped the box shut. Wrote one new label on the top in big black letters. "Do not open." Forgetting on purpose. And I dropped it off at Goodwill the next day. Some intern is going to open that thing and get wildly confused. I hope they make up their own ending. That night, Rachel and I were on the couch, sharing a blanket, watching Jeopardy. I told her about the box. "What was the song list?" she asked, smirking. "Lover was at the top." "Oof. That's bold." "Yup." She nudged me with her elbow. "What would our song be?" I thought about it. "You know that acoustic version of Just Like Heaven you played on your phone that one night? When we were cooking and burned the garlic?" She smiled. "I love that song." "Me too." She didn't say anything else. just reached for my hand and squeezed it. That moment right there? Better than every tux fitting, every DJ consult, every overpriced venue walkthrough with Pinterest printouts in hand. Because when love is real, it doesn't need a $27,000 budget. It just needs two people who show up, stay kind, and never ask for a break to chase a fantasy on a motorcycle. This morning, I got a letter in the mail. Like a real one. Paper. Envelope. Stamp and everything. The handwriting on the front? Familiar. Loopy, dramatic cursive. Emily. I stood there on my porch in socks, coffee in one hand, staring at it like it might explode. Rachel walked out behind me, saw the envelope. Old ghost? Something like that. You gonna open it? I paused. Then shrugged. Why not? Inside, a 4-page letter. The first page was what you'd expect. Apologies. Regret. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. Blah blah blah. Second page got more specific. I thought excitement was love. I thought stability meant boredom. I confused drama with passion, and by the time I realized what a mistake I made, you were gone. Page 3 was harder to read. Not because of the words, because of the tone. It didn't feel like manipulation. It felt like truth. I know you'll never take me back, and I don't blame you. But I needed to say it. You were never boring, Nathan. I was just too loud to notice the music in your quiet. And the last page? No ask. No plea. Just this. I hope she knows what she has. And I hope you never forget what you're worth. Emily. I folded it up, walked inside, and dropped it in the drawer with my tax receipts. You know, where all the reminders of responsibility live. Rachel glanced up from her laptop. Everything okay? I nodded. She gets it now. She smiled. Too late, though. Way too late. Then I walked over, kissed her on the forehead, and said, You want pancakes or waffles? Waffles. But only if they're lazy pancakes. I laughed. Coming right up. There was no dramatic music. No emotional montage. Just Sunday morning, 2 mugs of coffee, and the kind of peace that doesn't post about itself online. It wasn't a wedding. But it was everything a wedding was supposed to lead to. Last Thursday, one of my students, Jameer, sophomore, always wears a hoodie even when it's 90 degrees, stayed after class. He's not the type to linger. Usually grabs his stuff before the bell even finishes ringing. But that day, he hung back. Fidgeting. Backpack slung low like it was dragging him down. Mr. Torres? He said, avoiding eye contact. Can I ask you something? Sure, I said, still erasing the whiteboard. You ever, lose somebody because they didn't really see you? I turned around. You mean like a friend? Relationship? He shrugged. Just someone you thought mattered. Until you realize you were just the background character in their movie. I paused, marker still in hand. Yeah, I said. I've felt that. He nodded slowly, like he wasn't sure whether to be relieved or sad that someone else had. What did you do? He asked. I thought about it. I stopped auditioning for a role they never planned to cast me in. I said. And then I rewrote the script. He stared at me for a second, eyes wide. Damn, he said. That's kinda deep for a math teacher. I laughed. Yeah, well, I've had a weird year. He smiled, slung his bag over his shoulder, and walked out. And I stood there, alone in the classroom, thinking about how strange it is, how sometimes the things that break us end up being the stories that help someone else stay whole. I'm not saying I'm some kind of wisdom guru now. I still forget my lunch, still hit snooze 3 times, still get irrationally angry when people put their carts in the middle of the grocery aisle. But I know who I am now. I'm a math teacher with a labeled spice rack. I'm a man who canceled his wedding with calm precision. I'm someone who stopped being nice, just to be liked, and started being good in ways that had nothing to prove. And most importantly, I'm someone who finally realized. You don't have to be loud to matter. You just have to be heard by the right person. Rachel and I hosted a game night last weekend. Just a few close friends, some snacks, drinks, and a very intense round of code names that almost ended 2 friendships and 1 relationship. You know, the usual. Halfway through the night, someone asked how we met. Before I could answer, Rachel jumped in. He cracked a joke about Dostoevsky in the library, she said, grinning. And I thought, wow, a man who alphabetizes his humor. I'm in. Everyone laughed. Later, After the guests had gone and the empty chip bags were in the trash, we sat on the couch with a bowl of peanut M&Ms between us and our feet tangled up under a shared blanket. "You know," she said, "sometimes I think about that girl." "Which one?" "The ex. The one who said you were boring." I looked at her. "Why?" She shrugged. "Because if she hadn't left, I'd have never found you." I smiled. "So you're saying I owe her a thank you note?" "No. I'm saying she gave up a lottery ticket because she didn't like the font." We both laughed, and she leaned in closer. "You're not boring, Nathan. You're solid. You don't flinch. You don't disappear. You show up, even when it's hard. That's not boring. That's rare." I didn't say anything. I just kissed her. Because if there's one thing I've learned from this whole mess, it's that the best things in life don't come with dramatic entrances or fireworks. They come quietly. Steadily. Like the sound of someone setting 2 mugs down in the morning before you even ask. Love doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes, it just lets itself in and puts on your hoodie like it's always lived there. This morning, I found my old wedding ring. Not the ring. Thankfully, I never got as far as engraving it, but the simple silver band I bought when I first started planning everything. I'd hidden it in the top drawer of my dresser, behind a stack of receipts and an old pair of socks I never wear. I hadn't seen it since before the break. It was strange, holding it now. A circle of metal meant to symbolize forever, purchased for someone who couldn't make it through a bad month without wanting someone edgier. I slipped it on for half a second. It still fit. Then I took it off and dropped it into an old Altoids tin marked "Random crap." That's all it was now. Just a ring. Later, while Rachel was still asleep, I sat on the porch with my coffee, thinking about all the ways a life can almost happen. All the nearlies. The maybes. The people who come into your orbit and teach you something before crashing out like meteors. Emily taught me boundaries. Sophia taught me that some people give advice because they like the sound of their own chaos. And Dante? He taught me that tribal tattoos are not a personality, and motorcycles don't guarantee depth. But Rachel? She taught me that love doesn't need fixing or testing or proving. It just is. She walked out onto the porch a few minutes later, hair messy, hoodie zipped halfway. "You've been out here a while," she said, rubbing her eyes. "Just thinking. Dangerous." I smiled. "A little." She leaned down and kissed my forehead, then curled up beside me. "Whatcha thinking about?" I looked at her. "Forever." She raised an eyebrow. "As in, us?" I nodded. She didn't say anything. Just smiled, reached for my hand, and squeezed. No drama. No speech. No bad boys. Just us. And for the first time in a long time, forever didn't feel like pressure. It felt like peace. A few days ago, I ran into Dante. Yeah. That Dante. I was at a gas station off the highway, grabbing a bottled coffee and a pack of gum. He was outside, sitting on the curb next to a motorcycle that looked like it had survived a bar fight. I almost didn't recognize him. Longer hair, a little more stubble, same sleeveless hoodie, but now with a rip down one side. He saw me before I could duck out. "Nathan?" I froze mid-step. "Dante." He stood, offered a lazy half-smile. "Guess you won." I blinked. "I didn't know it was a competition." He shrugged. "Emily said you were the safe one. Guess safety has its perks." I didn't rise to it. "How's life?" "Between jobs," he said, as if that explained everything. "Thinking about starting a podcast." Of course he was. He leaned against the gas station wall, lighting a cigarette. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're boring. You just didn't try to impress people. That used to bug me. Now it kind of makes sense. That's called being a grown-up." He exhaled smoke and laughed. "Touché." I nodded politely and turned to leave. Then he called out, "Hey, did she ever tell you she cried the night she moved back in with you?" I turned back. No. She did. Sat in Sophia's car with her makeup all smeared, saying she wasn't sure if she made the biggest mistake or just took the longest possible way back to what she should have wanted all along. I paused. Then, she wasn't wrong. On either count. He grinned. "You're colder than I thought." "No. I'm clearer than I used to be." And I walked away. That night, I told Rachel about it. She listened, nodded, and simply said, "Want to bake cookies?" We did. Chocolate chip. Burned the first batch. Laughed anyway. Turns out the best kind of closure doesn't end with fireworks or revenge. It ends with someone handing you a spatula and saying, "We've got time. Let's try again." Last night, Rachel and I hosted her niece for a sleepover. She's 8. Loud in the best way. All questions and glitter and energy that doesn't respect bedtime. She showed up with a backpack full of stuffed animals and a full ranking of every Disney villain. She had a lot of thoughts about Ursula. At one point, she pointed at me while we were making popcorn and said, "Are you gonna marry Aunt Rachel?" I glanced at Rachel. She froze, mid-scoop, eyes wide. "Eventually," I said casually. "If she keeps laughing at my jokes." The kid looked unimpressed. "That's not a good reason." "Oh? You should marry her if she makes your heart feel like waffles." Rachel blinked. "Like waffles?" The kid nodded. "Warm and full and kind of perfect." We both laughed so hard I nearly dropped the popcorn. Later that night, after bedtime stories and too many marshmallows, Rachel and I sat on the couch in that soft, sleepy kind of silence that only exists after you've spent hours pretending to be a dragon in a princess story. She leaned into me and whispered, "You do make my heart feel like waffles." I kissed her forehead. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me." And right then, it struck me, I could have been married by now. Could have had a wife who rolled her eyes at my grocery lists, who needed the approval of women who thought chaos was personality, who bailed 2 months before the wedding because a guy named Dante had more tattoos and worse judgment. But instead I got this. Burned cookies. Cozy silence. Waffle metaphors. A love story that didn't start with fireworks, but built slowly, layer by layer, like something meant to last. I didn't just dodge a bullet. I walked into something better. Something real. Something quiet enough to be heard over the noise. This morning, Rachel handed me an envelope over breakfast. No context. Just slid it across the table between the coffee and the scrambled eggs like it was nothing. I stared at it. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a folded piece of printer paper. No fancy cardstock. No glitter. Just simple black text. It was a booking confirmation for a small cabin upstate. Fireplace. Wood stove. No Wi-Fi. 2 nights. Just us. "For what?" I asked. She shrugged. "For being the kind of man who cancels a wedding and still ends up believing in love." I stared at her, stunned. "You booked us a weekend getaway for me canceling a wedding?" "No," she said, smiling. "For everything you did after. For not turning bitter. For choosing better." I didn't say anything. I just folded the paper carefully and tucked it into my wallet behind my license. "You're not gonna frame it?" she teased. "Nope. Gonna carry it with me like a passport." She raised an eyebrow. "Just in case anyone ever asks what a second chance looks like," I said. Later that day, I pulled into the school parking lot, waved to the vice principal, and headed to my classroom like it was any other Tuesday. But I felt different. Lighter. Like someone who'd been handed a new story to tell. One where I wasn't the backup plan. One where I wasn't the safe choice. One where I wasn't just the guy someone settled for when the adrenaline ran out. I was the choice. Period. Last night, Rachel fell asleep on my chest while we watched an old black and white movie she swore would change my entire perspective on love. I made it halfway through before the narrator's voice started to sound like my 9th grade geometry teacher and I passed out too. When I woke up at 2 a.m., the room was quiet, the glow from the TV still casting a flicker across her face. Her hand was resting gently on mine like a promise she didn't need to say out loud. I watched her sleep for a moment, her breathing slow, steady, safe, and I felt it again. Peace. Not the performative kind. Not the kind you force into an Instagram post with a caption like, "Healing era." I mean actual peace. The kind of peace that settles deep in your bones when you stop trying to convince someone you're enough and start living like you already are. The kind that wraps around you like a blanket and whispers, "You don't need to be anything louder than this." I thought about how different things could have looked if Emily hadn't asked for that break. If I'd kept pushing, kept trying to win her back, kept pretending everything was fine. But I didn't. I let go. I canceled the wedding. And in doing that, I didn't just walk away from her. I walked toward me. The me who learned that being nice doesn't mean being spineless. The me who understood that boring is just a word people use when they're afraid of calm. And the me who, finally, stopped mistaking being needed for being loved. Rachel stirred, half awake now. Hey, she mumbled. Did I miss the ending? I smiled. Not yet. She yawned. Was it good? The best part's still coming. We got engaged last week. No fanfare. No flash mob. Just a walk, a quiet moment, and a ring I'd picked with care, not pressure. She said yes through tears, then laughed and said, Guess boring wins after all. I smiled. Not boring, I said. Built to last. And this time, no breaks. No tests. No backup plans. Just two people who chose each other, fully, freely, finally. And somehow, that simple, steady love was the most exciting thing of all.